Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in February. Normally I split my wrap-ups into two parts, but at the middle of the month I had read mostly HarperCollins books, or like HarperCollins imprints, and the strike was not over, so I decided to hold everything until the end of the month, and now I have a number of things to talk about. Not too many. I finished a total of 7 things this month. It turned out to be like, I forget the stats already. So in total, I listened to 44.85 hours of audio and read 1,057 pages this month. Audio has been my saving grace this year. I have read so many audiobooks and it's been great. I think like 9 out of 12 have been audio. So anyway, I'm going to talk through the things I read so far this month, and let's get started. So you'll see in my HarperCollins wrap up that I actually read the first part of the Hidden Legacy series. This series is basically made up of 2 trilogies. I read the first trilogy at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, and we'll talk about those there. In February, I read the entire second trilogy of the series. So I read Sapphire Flames, Emerald Blaze, and Ruby Fever, all by Alana Andrews. This trilogy focuses on the second eldest of the Baylor sisters. In the first one, we're following Nevada, who is the oldest sister. She is helping keep her family's investigative agency afloat, and she gets wrapped up deeper into Houston's magical politics through a series of events where she is tasked with sort of this impossible investigation, and she ends up kind of getting deeper and deeper into this in her trilogy, and then Catalina's trilogy follows up Nevada's a few years later. So I enjoyed the original trilogy. I really liked that. I liked Nevada's books, but I think the Andrews really hit their stride with Catalina. Everything was just at another level. I enjoyed the family. My favorite part of that first trilogy was the family aspect, and then this series even heightened that aspect. We spent even more time with the Baylor family, and the Baylor family is kind of even more Nevada is really the only adult sibling in the first trilogy, and in the second one all of the characters are coming into adulthood and kind of the responsibilities that they have, and you see more of their interactions, and I just really loved that about this series. I also liked Catalina's romance a little bit more, and overall I just thought it was a bit of a stronger series, but I loved both of these because the world building is so good and the Andrews have such interesting magic systems like I've talked about before. This is really going to be the year of me reading Alana Andrews, so watch out, there's even more coming. Next up was The Right Sort of Man, a Mystery by Allison Montclair. This is about our 2 main characters, Gwendolyn and Iris, who are 2 women who start a marriage bureau after World War II. They basically both need a hobby and they want to do something, so they hit it off at a wedding and they decide to go into business together. So they set people up, they do interviews, and then try to match people up on dates and stuff like that to try and help them find true love and marriage. So their business is called The Right Sort of Man Marriage Bureau, and their latest client has they find out been murdered, and the prime suspect is the man that they set her up with. So they believe that this man is innocent, so they go ahead and try and investigate and figure out what happened. The mystery in this is good, it's interesting. It's like a cozy mystery kind of, I believe, and this is a series of cozy mysteries. I did really like this. I liked the characters the best, and sort of the stuff that was going on with our 2 main leads and what they were kind of trying to figure out about their relationship, about their friendship, as well as their relationships with other people. And then I also just thought that this was a pretty interesting setup of Iris and Gwendolyn and kind of their strengths and weaknesses. I got really attached to the 2 of them. And I will be continuing on with this series, even though the mystery itself was a little bit weak, but it was cozy and fun, and that's what I went into it for. So it wasn't like I didn't enjoy it, but I expected it to be a little stronger. Then we have my DNF for the month, which is Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne, and this is a new release for 2022. I read this because it was going to be a book club pick for my local indie, and I just didn't get along with this book. In this, we're following Georgie, who moves back to her hometown. She has left her job, lost her job, it's kind of both, and she feels like she's a mess. She realizes that she's just been focused on today and what she has to accomplish today for her job and for her life, and hasn't been looking to the future. She doesn't know what she wants for her life. She feels kind of adrift after she loses this like very hectic job that she's in. So she moves back home with her parents, and once she gets there, she keeps bumping into a local guy who's a bit of just a loner, and he is the older brother of the guy that she had a crush on in high school. So she like starts to kind of, through a series of events, they are thrown together quite a bit. And that sounds like a fun setup. It sounded fun and interesting. I thought I would at least try it, and I just didn't like this. I felt like Levi, our main male lead, I was on board with him, even though he was a bit shy and awkward, until he kind of started poking fun at Georgie. He was poking fun at himself a little bit, and then he kind of turned his like grumpiness and introvertedness on Georgie at some points, and I just didn't like that. And then I was also frustrated that these characters just seemed to only think in their heads. Like, they didn't use words with one another, they didn't explain things with one another, they just assumed the worst. And sometimes I can get on board with that, but this I just found really annoying, and I just didn't find it very interesting. So we DNF'd. Next up, I reread Sleep in Peace by Alana Andrews. I'm rereading this as part of a Innkeeper Chronicles read-along that is being hosted by a few booktubers. I will link one of the live shows or the announcement down below if you want to check it out, from Steph over at Novelty Corner. But this has been really fun. Their live shows have been really hilarious, so I definitely recommend checking them out if you like this series or if you want to read along. The first book is called Clean Sweep, and in it we follow Dina, who is a young innkeeper who has she is living in a world that is very similar to ours, except inns, the type of inn like she runs, are somewhat magical. They're science and magic combined, and Dina welcomes visitors from across the galaxy to rest, recuperate, stay at her inn like a normal inn, except these visitors are aliens, and she has to keep them safe and also keep them secret from the rest of Earth. Those are her two main objectives. And at the beginning of this book, she takes on a peace summit, which is fraught with danger and enemies and lots of political intrigue, and it's just the first book is kind of a little bit of a mystery. This is much more political. I like this one actually a little bit more because I think it's more fun to see Dina kind of put her foot down. She kind of has to figure out stuff a little bit more on her own. She doesn't have quite as many allies in her corner in this book, and she kind of has to make her own, become a little more independent and a little more respected by her guests rather than just the innkeeper that sits meekly by. And I think book one set her up well to do that in this book, but this book she really hits her stride and kind of gets her feet under her and becomes her own person and her own entity as the innkeeper, and establishes kind of her relationship with her guests a little bit more, and I really liked that. This is a little bit less romancy than the first book, but there are some romantic bits. Overall, I really like this series. I think it has a pretty strong world building element, but it's not perfect. Like, it's very cozy, it's very fun, but you can almost, these books were written as blog posts on the Andrews website, and then they are edited and compiled into one, and you can almost feel that at certain points. You can feel where the blog post left off in order for you to like be enticed to come back next week. And like, it's fine and dandy, it's still fun, it's still fantastic, I still love the books, but at times you can kind of just feel that energy as you're reading. So definitely good, definitely fun, but not the craziest, most wild. When I say it's heavily political, I mean it's heavily political in compared to the first book. Like, it's not a political fantasy. It is a cozy palate cleanser, fun time that is more political in comparison to book one. Then the last thing I have to talk about today is Wicked and the Wildflower by Sarah MacLean. This is my first full-length Sarah MacLean book. I believe I read a couple of short stories by her that have been in anthologies, but I picked this up after reading the Christmas anthology that I enjoyed so much. In this, we're following Felicity, who is a young woman who is considered a spinster in the eyes of Regency England. She's 27. She has made a few social blunders that have left her on the shelf and her reputation a little bit damaged, and she also picks locks. She's like kind of on the fringe of being not what society wants her to be, and she meets this man called Devil, who appears on her balcony one night, and he kind of makes a deal with her that she will be engaged to a duke if she like accepts his help, and she will owe him a favor, I think is what the trade is. And the two of them hit it off, but Devil has his own motives, because the duke that he's setting Felicity up with is actually his, does it reveal this on the back? It's like his political enemy is what we'll say, but there's a little bit more to it than that. His Devil is trying to set this duke up for failure, and he doesn't care who he hurts along the way, and that might even include Felicity. But the two of them hit it off, sparks fly, and they can't quite stay away from each other. Personally, this is my favorite kind of setup, that it's sort of a like not taboo romance, but like a forbidden romance, and there's some elements here that could like upset the whole thing. And I just really like the sort of like dark bad boy Regency England vibe, like not all bad boys, but like this kind of bad guy who's actually like taking care of his people, and everybody like knows has a good side to him and everything. Chef's kiss, favorite type of like villain or romantic lead, whatever you want to say. This was good. It's like a 3-star. I enjoyed it. I read it in like 2 days, couldn't put it down. It was exactly what I wanted as like a palate cleanser. I did think we went in circles a little bit too much, and I thought there were a few things that like were very open-ended for things that we probably won't get books about, like certain relationships just felt kind of undefined and stuff like that. But overall I liked it and I had fun with it, and I will read more Sarah MacLean. MacLean? But that is everything that I read in the month of February. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about these books, please let me know down below. You can also subscribe down there if you want to. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.